Good morning, everybody. I'm hopping on just a teeny weeny bit early today. I'm actually ready on time, and I have somewhere to be later this morning, so I thought I'd just start just a couple minutes early. So good morning and welcome to This or That Thursday. My name is Karen Kong, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Ottawa, Canada, and every week I try to post 2 cards in my group for my crafting community to vote on, and the one that gets the most votes is the one I make live on Thursday mornings. So if you're watching live, please say hi, and if you're watching the replay, please comment. I love to get some interaction with my friends, my crafting buddies, and it makes it that much more fun when I'm crafting for you. Okay, so, and if you're new to my group and you've never joined in before, please tell me where you're watching from. Just give me 1 minute to set up my computer so that I can watch your comments while I'm crafting and my camera's facing my desktop. Okay, just a second. Let's see if I can get this up and running. All right. Looks like I've got that. Whoops. There we go. All right, good. We're ready to go. Okay, so I am going to get started, and I'm going to switch my camera to my desktop. So close your eyes while I flip the camera, and so you don't get sick. And just give me a second. Good morning, Sandra. Thanks for joining in. Glad you can make it before you have to head out. All right. Let me just zoom in a little bit. There we go. That does not look straight, and it's... Sorry, I'm just going to fix my camera so that your view is straight. I hope that's better. There we go. Okay, not too bad. All right, so I think it was a unanimous vote for the tunnel card, which I think is really fun to make and is actually really easy. I cased it from Susan Campfield. So Susan Campfield always makes lots of fun fold cards, and I love watching her reels and her videos and checking out what she's making. And this one I totally cased. I just switched it up to use some different accents. So let's get started. So what I need for this is a white card base, and I have 3 squares from the Dandy Designs free celebration paper. So don't worry, I always post my measurements in the video description after the live is done, so you don't have to worry about writing everything down. But these are 4x4 inch squares, and I'm going to use white card base. And so I'll tell you what I used here. The Adorable Owls, of course. That's also a free celebration set right now. And I used the Stylish Shapes dies to cut my circles. Okay. I also used these are stamps from the Light the Candles kit collection, the kit that you can buy in the kit collection, that is. So I wanted a happy birthday, a fun happy birthday sentiment, and I liked the one that came in that. And originally I had die cut some numbers. So the original card that I posted had a 13 in it because the card was made for my niece who's turning 13 next week. And I had die cut the numbers out, and I had actually die cut like 3 sets of them so I could pile them up, stick them together, and then give it some depth and height. So I'm not going to do that for this card because obviously I don't know who I'm giving it to, and I don't think that everybody will be turning 13. So I wanted to have candles, and I remembered that I had this set, this is an old celebration set, and they have little candles and they fit perfectly. So I decided to use that. So that's what I used today. So those are all the products I used. Okay, so I think that's it. I'm gonna get started. So let's start with the card base, okay? And, oh, and I used blends markers to do coloring, so that was fun too. Let me put everything aside and let's get started. Okay, and I just used the same colors that was in the DSP, except that I added gray because I thought the gray went really well with the blues. I think that's a Smoky Slate, I think it was. Yeah, Smoky Slate. Okay, so I'm gonna get my paper trimmer out. And I'm gonna get an 8.5 by 11 piece of white cardstock, basic white cardstock. Okay. So I'm gonna measure out 4¼ inches. Let me just double check my measurements over here. Okay, so 4¼ by 11. So this is an 8.5 by 11. So I'm just slicing it in half down the middle. 4¼ I'm going to measure it using the ruler here, and I'm going to use the cutting blade. Oops, I can feel that's not sitting properly. Oh, yes it is. Okay, 4¼ right down the middle. All right, now, oh, hi Tara. Thanks for dropping in, even if you can't stay for very long. Okay, so now I'm going to score it. So I'm going to score it at 4¼ and I'm going to use a scoring blade. 5¼ 9.5 and 10.5. So to do that, I'm going to have to extend the arm here so I can get a longer ruler. Okay. Sandra's asking, how does Smoky Slate compare to gray granite? You know what? You mean like for the blends markers? I don't have gray granite actually in the blends marker. And I don't know. I don't know if I actually bought the gray granite. I'm just checking out my inks, and I don't think I have both of the ink pads. I think I just have the Smoky Slate, and I've been able to get away with just using Smoky Slate. But you know what? I have this handy dandy swatch card that I received a while ago, and if you can see, the gray granite and Smoky Slate are actually right next to each other, so you can see how they compare. They're very close. It's a very subtle difference, I think. So I wish I could get more of these swatch cards. I would love to give them away, but they don't sell them anymore. Okay, so where was I? I did 2 of the score marks. I'm going to do 9.5 and 10.5. So 9.5 is here. And then 10.5 here. All right, so there's the scoring that I've done for that. Now the other piece that I need is I need 2 sections of 4¼ by 5. So if you remember, I cut this in half, so this is already 4¼ So I'm just going to cut 2 5-inch long pieces from this last half. Okay, so 5 inches. Get my scoring blade out of the way. 5 inches. All right, so these last 2 pieces also have to be scored, and they need to be scored at 4 5/8 inch on both sides. So I'm going to do it one side, then I'll flip it around. Okay, so this side, this is 4.5, and then another 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Yeah, I have been able to get away with Smoky Slate only. I haven't, knock on wood, needed to have the other grays yet. And I actually had not bought Balmy Blue, and of course this time this paper has Balmy Blue in it, and I wanted to originally stamp the candles in Balmy Blue, but I don't have Balmy Blue, so that I have actually just ordered, and it will be here sometime, but not yet. Okay, so same thing on this other piece of paper, 4 5/8, so 4 1/2, and then another 1/8 of an inch. Four and a half and 4 5/8. Okay, so before I continue, I'm going to go ahead and burnish all the folds on my paper. Okay, because you're going to want to have these nicely creased for the card. But I'll have to actually unfold them so that I can adhere all the DSP. But we'll do it before we adhere the DSP. There we go. All right, that's one. Oh my gosh, you have basic gray from 15 years ago, and I'll bet you're going to tell me it still works, which is incredible. So if you remember, I had ordered a mini boho blue cut and emboss machine, and the one that I got was unfortunately defective, and Stampin' Up! Has sent me a replacement, but it is stuck in customs. I think it's been stuck there since last Wednesday. So like, I contacted Stampin' Up! And they said they couldn't do anything about, you know, delays in at customs. So I don't know if they've just like lost it. Like, is it sitting somewhere in the back corner and got forgotten somewhere at customs? What, I don't know what's going on over there. Sandra told me that they probably unpacked it and started die cutting with it, and they're having fun with my machine. But I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. Like, how long do you wait before, you know, like, it's acceptable? Like a week in customs? Like, that seems rather ridiculous. All right, so okay, so now that I've burnished all the folds, I'm going to go ahead and put all the DSP on. So one is going to go here. Okay, so see, this is the main section with that little strip over here on the side is on the right. Okay, so it's going to go here. All right, and these will go on these two pieces. Now the key thing is that you only want to put adhesive around the edges of your DSP because you're going to be cutting out from the center. Okay, so I'm going to use glue for most of my most of the adhering part, because it gives me some time to like wiggle things around before it dries, and because this is like a fun fold, there's a few things that need to be lined up well so that the card folds flat. So I'm going to use glue for the majority. Okay, so I just put it around the edge. I'm just going to center it. And make sure it's stuck on good. All right, so there's one. Now I'm going to get these other two pieces and glue them on as well. So we have a cold snap coming tomorrow, or tonight actually, in Ottawa. It's supposed to be, I think it's like minus 30 degrees Celsius or something, and minus 40 with the wind chill, and it's going to be windy. I heard there's going to be like 30 to 50 kilometer wind gusts. So it is going to be cold, and That's not good news for my hands, because I find that my hands really, really dry out in winter these last few years, and I get like red rashes. Oh, Sandra, how did I decide which side of the paper to use? Well, I cased this one, so I used the exact same ones that Susan used in her card. And I was going to switch it up, maybe use the other colors, but I had already chopped out like a 4-inch strip, so I decided I was just going to use the whole thing. So, so I have like enough for 3 cards, right? So I just stuck with hers, and I liked the selection that she made, so I just went with it. So yeah, with the dry weather, like, you know, I have like cracks. See, that's like a tiny little crack. Like I have like dry sections on my hands that like appear during the winter, and I moisturize as often as I can remember, and but it's gonna be worse with the really cold weather tomorrow. Okay, so again, I'm only applying it on the outside because I'll be cutting out from the middle. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to die cut the middle sections out. Okay, I need my cut and emboss machine. All right, so I'm going to take this one, the biggest one first, and I'm going to line up, where's my dies? Okay, line up the circles. So here we go. So we're using the largest circle and the third largest circle, and then the 5th largest circle. So every other one to make this card. Okay, so let's put these aside for now. Okay, and this I am going to line up in the middle. Okay, oops, I need to turn it over. Almost made the same mistake as I did last week, where I left it facing up by accident, and all I did was die cut the top. Okay, so I'm just lining it up, and I can actually tell because of the pattern in this paper whether or not it's in the middle. So I'm going to use the paper to help me decide. Okay, that looks pretty good, and I don't have to stick my head in the camera. So I'm just going to use a little piece of washi tape to hold it down in place, and then we'll run this through. Okay. Yes, this can cut through 2 pieces of paper, Tara. Hi, Maureen. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, 2 pieces. I don't know if it can cut more than 2 pieces reliably. Okay, so there we go. That's the first one. Just going to get this off. And I can save the DSP and the paper for something else. I'll have to think of something because I have a whole bunch of circles now that I've cut out. Okay, so now I'm going to take the next piece, which is the layer underneath. Okay, and I'm going to line up the crease marks here. So I'm going to line up the crease marks. Can you see the crease marks here? So that, because that's how it's going to line up when they're folded up. Okay, so I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to line up my circle die in the middle, so that, because now I have this to guide me, because I want it to be in the center. Okay, and I'm just going to tape that down a little. So you don't have to have washi tape. I've seen, you know, Post-it notes used. Those are also good for that kind of thing. Okay, so now I'm going to run this one through. Maureen, are you back up to full speed now with doing your card making and stuff? Because I know you were like down and out for quite a while. All right, so there's the second one. Okay. And the last one. So again, I'm going to use this as my template so that I know how where my center is. So it's centered within the circle. That looks good. Okay. And we'll die cut this. I think it'd be fun to try some other DSP patterns with this. I'm sure there are lots of combinations that would look fantastic for this tunnel card. Maureen, you are amazing. I don't know how you do it. A 4-day retreat. That sounds amazing. I don't think I could get away for 4 days without my family, that is. All right. Okay, so now that we're done die cutting, let me just see now. Just trying to remember. What do we do next? Okay, so I need to place the, okay, so this is how it's going to go, right? I need to place the candles Yeah, I don't know how you always stay ahead and have time, extra time to babysit. Okay, so I want to place that in the middle. So I'm going to stamp that and emboss it, and then we'll place it using this as our guide, okay? So I'm going to get rid of my cut and emboss machine. We're done with that for now. And I'm going to get a scrap piece of white paper. Sorry. Okay, so scrap piece of white paper and block and my candles from this set. Yes, it's true. When you have kids in your family, young kids in your family, you just don't have enough time. Tara was just saying this morning that now that her youngest just left for university this year, that she was shocked at how much free time she had suddenly. Okay, so let me just move these. Okay, so I'm going to put Versamark on my paper. I'm going to stamp these in Versamark so that I can emboss with it. Okay? Let's do this. All right. And what I'm going to do is put on some silver embossing powder. Let me just get a piece of paper to put this on while I do that. Oh, I forgot to use the embossing buddy. Darn. And it works so well, too. Okay, well, I'm just going to have to... Oh, yes. If your daughter could drive herself to dance, that he would have so much more time, considering how much time she spends at dance. Okay, so there. I'm just going to put the powder back into the jar. Okay, and we will emboss this. I'm just going to get my heat gun. This is a pre-Stampin' Up tool that I had in my stash from my scrapbooking day. So I'm just going to let it heat up, and then I will emboss it, okay? Just a second. Oh, the cord is caught behind something. Just a second. See, reality crafting. Unexpected things happening. It's caught in the cord. It comes something else. All right. I'm going to let it heat up just a second. Okay, perfect. So now I'm just going to fussy cut this out. Because there's no dies for this one, unfortunately. And unfortunately, there were no dies for the taco set either, which would have made things so much easier, but I still like it. And these are pretty easy to cut out. The taco set actually wasn't, it's not hard to cut that one out either. Yes, the silver looks like it's magic when it like melts. I'm just gonna chop this off to make it easier for me to cut it. There we go. There we go. But then if the coordinating dies come out, Sandra, that means we're going to have to buy them. You know that, right? Okay, so there's my my little birthday candles, and I'm going to put them up on dimensionals. Let me get my dimensional stickers out. Okay, and the way we're going to line this up, okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm lining up this edge with the crease mark over here, okay, and that means this little section here is going to hang over the edge of the card, the very end of the card, and that's how it matches up. Okay, so now I know where my center is, and that is where I'm going to place my candles. Okay, so let me just put the dimensionals on. And Susan's card originally, she had put the sentiment in the middle. She had a little tiny sentiment, I think it was just for you that it said, that she used in the middle. But I wanted to put my sentiment on the outside of the card where the owl is. So I am putting my image in the center. All right, so there it is. Let's flip that over. And mind you, I'm not going to let the adhesive stick to the DSP. So if your image is a little bit bigger, just make sure your dimensionals don't end up sticking to your DSP, because you don't want to do that. Okay, so now my little image is lined up in the middle. Yeah, the note goes on the back. So what I did was that once I assembled everything, I cut a piece of Balmy Blue and I just put it on the back here. I wrote on it before I stuck it on, so you can't write on it, obviously. It's a little bumpy, right? Like, you can fold this flat, so it folds flat. You can push it over like this. Or was it like this? Yeah, one way. There's one way that it'll lie kind of flat, but then don't forget you've got dimensionals here. So I always, I would recommend doing the writing and then sticking on your paper on the back. So yeah, okay, so with that in the middle, I'm gonna go back and burnish my folds again. Just a second, because I'm going to need to adhere them now. So again, I'm going to use glue because that will give me wiggle room when I'm trying to line it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on this flap, and it's going to line up with the fold mark, the crease line right here. I'm going to put it right up against it, okay? So let me get my glue out. Okay, so I'm going to line this up right here. Okay, so I'm going to put it down so that I can press on it. So I'm going to make sure, yeah. I'm trying not to stick my head in the camera, but I want to see that it's lining up. Sorry. This is why it's really important to use glue. It gives you a few extra seconds to, like, you know, move things around and line it up properly. Okay, so I think that looks like it's, I'm just moving it a little bit over. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now that is glued down. I'm going to take the second piece. Okay, so I would just double check before you glue it down that it is actually in the right location, because sometimes your circle might be a little bit higher or lower than middle, but I can see I did line that one up. It looks okay. Okay, so I'm just going to double check my second circle lines up okay too. So if I put it this way up, that it looks like it's centered, because sometimes if you do this, you might find that it doesn't look centered, because that's not how you measured it out. Yes, well, see, it looks okay, but I'm pretty sure this is the way I had centered it when I originally die cut it. So I think it looks better like this. I'm going to make sure to glue it on like that. Okay, so again, I'm just going to put glue along the flap. Okay, and I'm going to put it flush up against the first one that I had glued on. Okay, and that's good. That was easier to line up because it's the edge of the paper instead of a crease. Okay, so I'm just going to press that down and give it a second to adhere. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push these flat because I want to put glue along the edges of these flaps here. Okay, so this is going to fold over and I will press it down, okay, and it will stick to the inside flap here. Okay, so we're just going to put glue along both edge flaps of the two layers underneath. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to fold it over. I'm going to press it flat. I just need to give it a couple seconds to dry or it's going to lift when I try to stretch it out. All right, hopefully that was long enough. So now you can see when I straighten it up, you get the tunnel card. Isn't that cool? Okay, I don't want to press press it too hard yet because it's not quite dry. And I also want to, what I'm going to do is put glue on this flap, and we'll glue it to the inside of the back of this tunnel card. And then you can put a nice piece of DSP, or you can put a piece of cardstock here for that you'll have written your sentiment on, or your message, that is. Okay, so I think that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and put glue on this last flap. Okay. Now, because it folds flat like that, so I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to I'm going to press it down so that I can fold it flat again. Kind of tricky on this side without getting glue on your hands, but it's doable. All right, so now that that's covered up, I can fold it flat and press it. And this is how you will send it in the mail too. It'll just fold flat, and then the person hopefully will be able to figure out how it's supposed to open up. But when it's done. There, so there's the tunnel card. Super easy, right? It really wasn't that hard. Okay, see that? Okay, so now all I have left to do is stamp my owl and my sentiment and add that on. Okay, so I'm going to get my Stamparatus out. So I want to stamp the owl twice because I want the edges of the borders of the owl to stand out. So I stamped it twice, and then I will let it dry before I color with the blends marker. So when I'm coloring with blends markers, I use the extra thick basic white paper because it absorbs more of the ink, so it's better for coloring. I find that on the thinner paper, it not only bleeds through more easily, but sometimes I find, I don't know if it's because I'm not waiting long enough, but I'm wondering if that's what's causing like bleeding of the black lines. Like sometimes if you color too much, the black lines will bleed into other areas. So I think with the thicker paper, it doesn't do that as much, depending on how much you color, I guess. But anyway, so I'm going to stick with using the thick basic white paper for coloring stuff. So I save that one just for my my coloring projects. But lots of people like to use a thick basic white just for the card base even too. So okay, so I'm just going to line this up because if the paper moves after I have placed my stamp, it's easy to fix it. And there is a foam insert here for the Stamparatus because you need it for the stamps that are photopolymer and don't have, oh, you know what, this is a cling stamp. Nope, wait, where did it go? Yeah, these are cling stamps, so they actually have foam already, so I can remove that piece of foam. Okay, so they have foam in there, so I don't need the foam insert on my Stamparatus. Just a second. So I'm just going to take that out. Okay. Okay. The lining up actually isn't so important for this image because it's not a sentiment, but okay, so let's put that here. And I'm going to use Memento Black, if I can find it. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. Okay, so Memento Black. Okay. Okay, you can see that's fully inked. Okay, so that's fine, but I want it to be a darker outline, so that's why I'm stamping it twice. Yeah, Sandra, if you want to do coloring with the blends marker, I really like having the thick white cardstock for coloring on. I actually did a little comparison for myself at one point to see how the blends markers reacted with, like how they behaved with regular paper versus the thick, and I do like the thick better. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry for a couple seconds while I stamp my sentiment. So let me just clean off my stamp. Maureen, do you do a lot of coloring with blends, and do you use the thick cardstock too? Just curious. You've got a lot more experience with me than I thought I'd ask. Okay, sentiment next. So I need a long piece of white. So I'm just searching through my strips of white cardstock here, because I have, like, you know, when you cut off, like when you trim your white card bases, you're always making like long strips of thick paper, a 1/4 inch usually, but I actually need a little bit more for this particular sentiment because the happy birthday needs a little bit more than a 1/2 inch because it's a little bit wider. Okay. And this is a photopolymer set, so I have to put the foam back in. Okay. Oh, I was just asking Maureen if you color on thick white cardstock only, or do you also color on the regular cardstock? Because I was saying that I just find that I'm not sure if it's the bleeding sometimes that I get is from using thinner paper, or it's because I colored too much, even on the thick cardstock. I think if you color too much, because you're trying to blend it, because I'm a little overzealous, perhaps. I don't know. Whoops, wrong one. I want to put the happy birthday stamp on the back piece. I want the hip hip hooray. So the hip hip hooray is one long stamp. Sorry, Maureen. So yeah, I was just saying that I use the thick cardstock. I like using the thick one better for coloring, and I was wondering if that's what you do too. Oh, blends markers for coloring on shimmer paper or watercolor paper. Oh, okay, watercolor paper, yes. That actually works really well too. I haven't tried, like I have watercolor paper in the house. My daughter loves painting with watercolors and stuff, but I haven't actually tried blending, using the blends markers on there, so that would be interesting to try. Okay. Coastal Cabana is the one I used for this. And actually this one I found that the ink has is quite wet, so if you haven't seen me do this before, what I'm doing is I'm just taking an old credit card. I just need a straight edge, and I'm brushing the ink to one side. Do you see it smoothing? Because then I don't get like blops of ink on my stamp image, because because the ink pad is very wet. So by brushing it to one side, it kind of prevents that from happening. Okay, I'm just cleaning off my straight edge. All right, so now I'm going to ink up my sentiment. And I'm going to stamp this twice as well. Okay, because you can see, like, this is a little bit lighter than the rest of it, so hopefully that'll just even out when I stamp it the second time. There we go. So that looks good. I think I'm going to leave it at that now. Okay. And let's clean this off. And I'll get rid of my Stamparatus so that I can cut this out. So I'm actually going to trim my hip off because I want that in a different spot. Okay. I'm going to turn this around. Okay, so I'm going to trim it quite close because I'm going to have to split it right down the middle there, so it's going to look funny if I leave too much white on the right side when there's very little on the left there. I think actually I'm going to have to trim off a tiny bit more. No, I'm going to leave it. Okay, so there is right between, and I'm going to slice down the middle. I'm going to move it over a tiny bit more. See, that one's really close. All right, so there's a little bit more room on that side. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to take off a tiny bit more so that they're not. I always think it's amazing how closely I can, like, how tiny slices I can make out of this using the paper trimmer. Okay, so I'm going to leave that, but I want to trim this down, top and bottom as well. Okay, turn it around. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now the other one, I'm just going to trim it down so that I can fussy cut this. Because when I put it on the owl, if I didn't fussy cut it, like if I wouldn't leave it this wide, but you can see how it just basically covers up the owl. So I had to fussy cut it so that it would be right down to the edges, and then I could see my owl behind the sentiment. You know, I'm not a big fan of fussy cutting, but it really makes a difference for some of these images and how you end up placing the images and sentiments together and how they look. And it allows you to add layers, of course. Like with the Taco Fiesta card that I made, like I couldn't do the same kind of layering if I didn't cut out all the images. And it's worth it when you see the final product and you're able to like move around all the little characters and the pieces and arrange them how you want them. But I will say that I am not an expert fussy cutter, and I would much prefer be able to just die cut it. Oops, just trying to come around this corner here. Yes, Maureen, if you have samples, I would love to see what that looks like. That never even occurred to me to use a blends marker on shimmer paper. I didn't even know that it would take to the shimmer paper, actually. There we go. So that didn't take too long. All right, I'm just going to, so this is kind of a little bit bent because of the scissors kind of pressing up while I was cutting, so I'm just going to use my fingers to smooth them back. Okay, so now that those are cut out, I think I'll go back to my owl now. I'm going to trim off the bottom section here, and then we'll do some coloring. All right, so here's my owl, and I used Balmy Blue, which is the same blue that's in the DSP, and I used Pumpkin Pie and Smoky Slate. Okay, so I'm going to do his eyes first. I put like a little bit of darker blue here in the corner, the side. hopefully give it a little bit of depth, but it's pretty small, so I really don't know if it's really visible that much, but it's nice. So when I'm coloring, because of that problem that I've had with bleeding, I try not to go over the black edges too often, and I try not to overcolor. I think that was my problem, is that I was trying to blend too much, and I was using so much ink that it was causing some bleeding. And same with the beak. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Maureen, I'm sorry to hear that you have a sick child to deal with. Hopefully they'll get better soon. Okay, so the beak is very tiny, so I'm still going to use a little bit of shading because it looks so nice. Okay, and then same for the feet. It's a really cute owl. All right, and then the last bit is the gray. So I'm going to use the darks to add shading. So I'm just going to put a little shading here and along the edge of his brow. Okay, and then underneath his neck, well, where his neck would be, and along the edge of his wings. Same on the other side. And you can play with this. I mean, like, not everybody puts shading in the same spots. Okay. So now I'm going to use the light to blend it in and fill in the rest. Actually, I'm going to turn it this way. So with the blends markers, I found that you have to go over the original color and then kind of work it in. Some people go with like doing the dark first and then light, and then other people I've seen do light and then dark, but I found for me, I don't know, I can't seem to get it to blend nicely the way I want it to when I go from light to dark. So I always do the dark first. See how when you like color over the edges, like it just, the alcohol blends markers just mix the colors together so you don't get a harsh line. I can see that there are probably comments popping up, but I'm concentrating on the coloring and I can't look because I don't want to end up with marker outside of the lines. See, sometimes I get these lines and I don't know why they're... See, that's how I end up like having to work it in a little bit. Sandra's saying you do light, then add dark, and then blend with light. Oh, okay. See, then do you ever get like the like bleeding from, you know, doing so much coloring? Because that's what I'm always afraid of, is that I get bleeding. See, I want to blend this in a bit more. And on the regular paper, for sure, it would have started bleeding by now, I think. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so now I'm just going to fussy cut out my owl. Go close to the line, not on the line. Yeah, I've been trying to be more mindful of that, Maureen, but it's good to know that that is the way to do it. Because before I was going on the line and I was getting much more bleeding. I think Winterlude is supposed to start this weekend here in Ottawa, but the as far as I know, even with the deep freeze coming tomorrow, the canal's not open yet, which is really unusual. So there'll be no ice skating on the canal, and I don't know if they're going to have ice sculpting contests, because like I think I looked at the forecast and I think I saw like the temperatures going back up to like above seasonal again after this deep freeze goes by. So I'm not sure what Winterlude's going to be like, although there is lots of snow, so the tobogganing hills and such should be open, I think. Almost there. Thanks for your patience. I always find myself holding my scissors in a death grip when I'm trying to do fussy cutting, and I wonder why my hand is so tired afterwards. Okay, so I'm just going to trim that off. That makes it easier without the excess hanging off. There's my owl, done. Okay, so I'm going back to read Sandra's comment. You get bleeding. Oh, it's just I'm not worried about the tearing. I don't like how when the black lines bleed that it just doesn't look as crisp. My image doesn't look as crisp, so that's why I try to be really careful now. Try not to over color. Okay, so now I'm just going to adhere this. I'm going to use dimensionals for this little guy. So I had to be careful because there is that cutout there. So I'm only going to put dimensionals behind this section of him. So it's just along here. Okay. And I'm just going to check if his feet are still on there. Yeah, I think his feet are still on there, so I'll just put one down here. here. So yeah, I think that should be sufficient. I'll be interested to know when this card arrives at the other end in the mail, if the owl looks okay. Because there's nothing to support him behind here because he looks so good right now. Okay, so I'm gonna stick him on like this. Okay, so I'm just gonna check down this side. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna stick my finger in between so I can just kind of press the dimensionals on. There we go. All right, and I'm going to glue on the hip hip hooray. Okay, so this is just going to go across his arms. So I'm just going to, because the ends are not on top of his arms, I'm just going to put glue right in the middle. Thanks, Maureen. I'm glad you like it. I tell you, I just cased Susan Campfield. I mean, I really took her card and I just replaced her bunny with the owl and moved around the sentiments. So that's the best part about, you know, all the ideas that are out there, and you can just customize it to whatever you have. There we go. And then the hip part, I'm going to have it like right here. So again, I have to make sure that I don't put glue where there's no paper to adhere to. Okay, so I'm just going to put it like this, which is where I imagine that it's going to stick to the paper. I'm going to need my tweezers for this. All right, so here. Okay, whoops. There we go. All right, and the last touch is the bow. So I used, again, a gray, this is actually gray granite, Sandra. So this is a gray granite bow, but ribbon, I mean. But, I mean, like, they're not right next to each other, and I think they're close enough that, you know, it's fine. It looks fine together. So I'm just going to tie the bow right on the spool so that I can adjust how much I need. So it's just a knot. I was thinking that a bow would be too overwhelming. I just wanted a small touch. So I just tie a single knot there, and I'm just going to trim off what I don't need. Okay. So I think I want to trim that off just a little bit shorter because it's a little bit too long. It's just a tiny bit. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a glue dot, and I'm just going to take half a glue dot because a whole glue dot I think is going to stick out, and I don't need a whole glue dot. Okay, so I'm going to use a half a glue dot. All right, so I'm just going to stick that on right there, and I'll move it over a little bit. Whoops. Okay, good thing that's going to be covered. All right, so the glue's not fully dry yet, so it's moving and wiggling a little bit. Oh no, that's covering my H now. Reality crafting. Oh my gosh, I covered my H. Okay, it's not the end of the world. I can do this. Okay, just gonna twist my ribbon back around, and let's not cover up the H this time. There we go. That's better. There we go. So that's the card I have. So again, like I don't put the back panel on until I'm done. Let me just check. Yes, I think this is So this I would write on first, and then I suggest you adhere it, right? And then you won't have to try and write on top of this, the bumpy card, right? But it folds flat for mailing, so that's what I did. So I just folded it like this and mailed it off. So, but isn't that cool? It really wasn't that hard. It really wasn't that hard. It just looks so amazing though. I think it looks fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this tunnel card, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Comment and say hi if you're watching this on replay, and I will put your name in for a prize draw if you're a Canadian citizen. Have a great day, ladies, and I will see you again next week. Bye!